I'm Dr. Jennifer Kozaily, your host for today, and our guest is Magda Snowden, a nurse executive leadership consultant and mentally agile leadership coach with over 2 decades of experience across healthcare systems in the UK and in the Middle East. She specializes in human-centered leadership, supporting organizations to reduce burnout, improve engagement, and drive sustainable performance. So, talking about mental health and healthcare systems, can you tell me more about what does mental agility, resilience mean in the world of healthcare systems and leadership? Because we hear those words, but probably we don't know the real definitions of it.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for asking about the definitions. What I see in my practice, and I've been there myself, we start discussing a concept and everyone has a different opinion, but are we actually having the same understanding? So mental agility, and I am the creator of mentally agile leadership framework, is the ability to pause, think, and respond instead of reacting. So it's a set of skills. It's not fixed in stone. Imagine if you have a basket of tools called mental agility. Throughout your life, you keep adding, upgrading, beautifying these skills. So resilience, well-being vocabulary. Every single person is going to have a different set of tools, and that's the beauty of it. So individualized, plus we continue evolving these tools as we move through life. So that's mental agility. Why we are discussing mental agility in healthcare? So I'm a nurse myself. I have worked in the NHS in the UK 15 years. I moved to Dubai just before the pandemic, was in charge of one of the COVID field hospitals. Worked in Kuwait also a couple of years. I've seen the same patterns. Healthcare providers are stressing out, burning, leaving the profession. Incidences are happening, patient is suffering. And the organization, on the other hand, doesn't have the resources to support that individual. So there is a disconnect. And I've been thinking about it extensively, reflecting, discussing, educating myself. Why healthcare is burdened with this stress and burnout. And you know what? The conclusion is one of them, that healthcare was designed to be reactive, not proactive. It was not designed to take care of that individual who is taking care of another human.
It's designed to take care of the patient and putting the patient first. And we tend to forget that the healthcare provider is also requiring this amount of care. Because to be able to care for someone, you need to be also cared for. Otherwise, you won't be able to care for the patient, right?
Yeah. And we have these sayings, you cannot pour from an empty cup, right? We are now in well-being evolution, mental health revolution. We see these quotes on the internet, be more agile, be more resilient.
But how do we implement it though? That's my next question for you. We know the definitions, but how do you really implement it in our healthcare system, especially that we know that we have different healthcare systems. What works here in the UAE probably does not work in the UK or does not work in the US. So how do you navigate agility around this implementation?
Beautiful questions. And I hope we have several hours to dig deep. So I have written a book based on the lived experience on being a nurse myself first. I started actually as a caregiver in a nursing home. I was very passionate to become a nurse. The hospital sponsored me to do my training. I very quickly progressed through the career ladder and I started noticing patterns. So as I said, 15 years in the NHS in the UK, then Dubai, then Kuwait, and now I'm on the other side of the equation. So I support the providers, the teams, the leaders, the organizations. Again, there are very similar patterns. We are all human beings, so shared lived experience. We suffer with the same issues, yes, in different cultural settings. So cultural intelligence is super important to be able to navigate that agility. And I've learned this through feedback. So when I work with individuals, whether it was in leadership capacity or now in coaching, mentoring, training, I listen to people. I create that space, and I think this is one of my strongest characteristics. I care, so they're able to express themselves freely. And without this feedback, I could not have produced the framework, the tools, because these tools are for the people, not for me. Although my experience brings a lot of value, but every single individual is the part of the collective intelligence. So I'm a systemic team coach, and for me, I believe so strongly in the collective intelligence.
And what is the most challenging aspect in the implementation? When you have sat with leaders, you've mentored leaders, you've coached them, but what is like the most challenging in changing the mindset of those leaders?
So I will say what's most challenging for them and what's most challenging for me. When I work with leaders, what they think is challenging is to move from awareness to behavioral change. So you do your pitch, you set the strategy, you explain it step by step. They almost cannot visualize how. The market is saturated, right? There is so many magical solutions. I call them magic prescriptions. So there is so much going on in the wellness space.
And everybody gets so excited about, wow, this is a new concept, we're going to implement it.
Yeah.
But then a few weeks later, implementation fails.
Yeah. So the beauty of this framework, it sits at the intersection of neuroscience, psychology, human-oriented leadership. I always address the human. So because I create magic formulas or one-liners, it's almost like I explain it on an individual case. So I have a lot of cases from the past when I worked with individual leaders and also with teams. Within 3 to 6 months, we can have a really tangible change. What is important for healthcare leaders also to understand, some changes cannot be measured in numbers. How do you measure empathy? But we can listen to that patient who is gonna come back and say, that nurse came to my room, she noticed I was stressed and she held my hand.
And they remember the name of that nurse as well. And that's important.
Human skills that I talk about. And recently I have a quite serious health issue. I was diagnosed with a condition that no one wants to be diagnosed in January. So now I'm also a patient. And I observe. So all these situations when an individual is entering the room, the energy is right, it shows me they're not stressed. Or even if they're stressed because they are short-staffed, okay, something has happened, they had an incident, another patient has put a complaint, there is a delay on a surgical list, how do they carry themselves? They're able to verbalize it. Mom, is gonna take probably longer for me to answer this bell. I will bring this medication, can you please bear with me? When I ask a question and they will say, I'm gonna come back and give you the answer because I don't have it now. Yeah.
But the thing is, to be able to do that, they need to be supported by their leaders and by the system.
Yes.
So sometimes, even if they are empathetic, but they face pressure and they face no support, lack of support from their leadership, and they become stressed.
Yeah.
So again, it goes back to empowering the leaders, educating, training the leaders, and that's probably the most challenging aspect of.
So there is this, there is a lot of data that says that the middle manager has the biggest impact on the well-being of the employees in organization. And since the beginning of this year, I've been delivering a series of training on engagement and well-being in organizations for a different industry, for banking industry. Every single time I deliver these courses or these sessions, I hear from them, this needs to be delivered to the C-suite, and this also needs to be delivered to the regular employee on the floor. Why is it us that are taking responsibility for driving the well-being in organization if our well-being is not being addressed? So thank you for disclosure, and this is super valid, because if they are left isolated, working by themselves, the impact won't be that big. Okay, they will empower their people, but the impact would be even more profound if the whole organization speaks the same language and the leadership walks the talk.
Exactly. That's back to the culture of the
Yes.
organization.
Yeah.
So working in risk management and patient safety gave me a very good insight on how changing a culture is difficult. And that's why we need to seek for help and support from providers, from experts like yourself, to be able to mentor and coach those leaders to implement the change. Because they can't be doing it by themselves, or I cannot be the one speaking that language on my own. Back to that, I cannot be doing the change by myself. It has to be, everybody has to be on board. Everybody has to be speaking the same language.
Yeah.
So
And even interesting that you are mentioning this. Again, this is part of the recent courses that I have delivered. What is the definition of culture?
yeah,
What is the definition? Because when you ask people, there is normally silence in the room. And I love the silence because there is so much information.
Yes.
So giving people opportunity to first define it. Okay, culture is not what is written on the wall or in the strategy presentation in the PowerPoint. Although the NHS trust that I used to work back in the UK, or the values were written on walls, on hospital walls. And that was a beautiful example of an organization that lived the values. And there were dignity, one team, and respect.
So it is the collection of the values and behaviors that match the values, not just the values that are written on the walls.
And how people feel. So you also heard that saying that culture is how people feel on a random Wednesday afternoon at 3 p.m. in that organization.
Or Sunday night
Or
before going to work on Monday. Are we feeling that we're going to school and we're having the stomach cramps because, oh my God, I have work tomorrow?
Yes.
Or we're feeling happy and relieved and, I'm going to go see my colleagues and I'm going to make an impact where I'm working.
An example, I can give actually a big example. So imagine it's a Sunday night and you are going on your shift that starts on Monday at 7 a.m. And it is either we have two different individuals. Then nurse A says, oh my God, we're gonna be short staff and the manager is gonna be so stressed, she's gonna push us. I know I won't have time to have a break, and it will be like, please be more resilient and can you come and cover additional 2 shifts because we are short and you need to take care of the patient in the other bay because the other nurse is junior, and it's gonna be like that. And the whole week is gonna be a cycle and I cannot wait for my holiday and they might cancel my holiday, da 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 da. I've seen these patterns. And the nurse B says, it's gonna be okay. We already know we are short-staffed. I've seen the WhatsApp group. We have the best team in the whole hospital. We will pull through together. We get some food. Our manager actually always gives us treats. And, we have these check-in sessions in between cardiac arrests going on in the unit. I feel that I delivered something meaningful and I really want to show up again. So I'm being seen as a human that has limited capacity, not that superhero. And one of the coasters that I also use in my practice
Can you talk about coasters? Because I asked you about them before the talk. And can you explain the science, or what do those coasters do?
So I'm gonna give a credit. I like to give feedback and credit to other people that helped me grow to the version of Magda that is sitting here in front of you. So one of my very good friends, Nina, she said, Magda, you have produced the framework. You are so excited. We can see that your work is bringing a lot of value. Can you produce some tangible resources that people can use in a moment of crisis or in a moment of stress that is gonna help them make it through that day? And then start that behavioral change. So it's all about behavioral change. So imagine I have a CEO. Recently I worked with a CEO who identified himself. He already has a good level of awareness. He identified that his emotional management needs improvement. He's fast reacting, he's getting stressed, trying to help everyone else. No one is coming to asking him, how can I help? And he keeps snapping. In the moment of stress, he will be like, why did you do it? Or he will just give quick advice instead of do something about it. So one of the coasters, the black one, says, pause, think,
talk.
Why? Majority of people skip the first two. And they just talk.
Yeah. That's
So,
right. Yeah.
There is a whole science behind posing as a leadership skill. You know, as a person, as a researcher yourself, as someone who worked in healthcare previously, that your brain needs to come almost to a position of standstill to be able to evaluate the situation, to acknowledge also the emotions that will be running high when something happens, when there is an incident, calm it, process it, and come back with a response.
But again, I'm going to go back to this. I was in a leadership position, I was in a middle management position, and I was ER pharmacist, which is like healthcare provider myself. So I've been through those 3 different roles, and always my impact was impacted by the leadership that was backing me up. Pausing and thinking, I was able to do it when my mentors or my leaders were allowing this space to happen. But if they don't allow that, even if I know that it's right, you have the pressure of like, you need to do this right now. You need to decide right now. But just say, give me a break. I need to pause and think about it. And most of the times, because it's driven as, you know, we need to be fast, I go back again to the culture of the institution.
Yes. And it's about, so this is how we start molding the culture. We're not changing it, like breaking it. We're not saying it's wrong. There are some good elements in every culture, in every organization. What is it that is beneficial? What can we amplify? And then bringing awareness. And as I said, moving from awareness to behavioral change, people see this is almost impossible. However, the commitment needs to be there. So it doesn't matter how good I am, what's my framework, what background I have. If the other person, the team, the leader, the organizations, this is not on their agenda, it's not gonna work.
And definitely when it's financial driven, most of the times. We need to go back to human-driven healthcare systems and not financially driven healthcare systems.
So don't see, for example, nurses as a cost. See them as an equal partner in the discussion. And because what we now see huge competition in Dubai amongst the private hospitals. The patients are gonna choose the doctor, the nurse, the kind environment that has a healing vibe, that people speak kindly, that they are not rushed. They also have the expertise and they have the latest resources, which we see in Dubai. But you know, it's that feeling. And I've seen it often. Patients will follow physicians from one hospital to the other.
That's how you make them feel.
Yes. This is Maya Angelou, right? People won't remember what you said to them, but how you made them feel.
Yes. One of the coasters that really also caught my eye, connection drives performance, back to the human interaction. So this is something that probably also we need to focus on in our healthcare systems.
For example, I understand that some people are more metrics driven. Okay, data is there for a reason. So if I'm delivering my pitch and I need to go with the numbers, then I can quantify how much the connection drives performance. Because ultimately, it's not just a series of training sessions or coaching sessions. They need to be an output at the end of it. So whether is less patients complaint, higher satisfaction,
less turnover of your staff.
Less turnover.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. What have you seen in your journey in healthcare as the biggest promoter of well-being for the providers?
The biggest promoter for well-being for providers.
What's the one factor that will make it or break it?
They have to speak up. Providers have to have the ability to speak up and not take everything in. Because if you don't speak up about your issues, about what's bothering you, if you don't feel comfortable discussing your limitations during your work, nobody would know about it. Back to feedback. If you don't provide feedback, if you're just quiet and not saying what's on your mind and what's bothering you, leaders won't know. They'll continue doing what they're doing. So for me, speaking up and feedback, like we let patients speak up through patient complaints, we need to let the providers speak up, and they need to feel comfortable speaking up. Lots of physicians, they reach the point where they reach a burnout, especially when it's a fast-paced environment. You have lots of things that are going on. You have lots of KPIs, performance is measured, but they feel that they're, at the end of the day, they're not able to pause and think. They're just like the machines, but they reach a point where they have burnout.
Yeah.
So if they're not conveying this, their concerns to the leadership, I think they wouldn't know of those, and they'll continue the culture that was like not supporting them.
Yes. Yeah. And if you want to bring numbers into this equation, a nurse or a doctor that are either under chronic stress or burned out are 3 times more likely to be involved in a patient incident.
Of course.
So this is how we speak when we explain how it works. But
because we always look at the short term, we don't look at the long term.
Yeah.
But on the long term, these nurses who are burnout will end up making mistakes, because to err is human. And if you're not mentally and physically comfortable, you're gonna end up having lapses, near misses happening all the time. On the long term, you don't see it. You see everything on the short term, like what is the money that's being brought on the table, but we don't see on the long term that when medical errors happen, it's gonna cost your institution on the long run. It's gonna cost your reputation.
Yeah.
And that's what they don't see, and they need to be seeing more.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful example. And you're talking about healthcare providers speaking up. At the very beginning of my book, there is a sentence that says, you don't have to carry it alone. So I really recommend for anyone working in healthcare, you don't need to be in clinical role. You will recognize yourself in these stories. There is a lot of storytelling about individuals and organizations that I have worked at. Of course, maintaining confidentiality. Some of my clients like to share their examples. I have a couple that really managed to shift that mindset from hero to human.
# true story.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So the mental agility heroes are there.
Yeah, because we will only be able to learn when we hear about other people's experiences. And that will give them the drive also to, okay, it happened with them, it can happen with us. So let's change and let's make the move forward.
Yeah.
I think we can spend hours and hours talking about mental agility and how to improve healthcare systems by implementation of mental agility and resilience the right way, not just definitions. But I want you to just summarize, like in summary, how can healthcare providers embrace mental agility, and how can they speak up given the challenges that they're facing in our healthcare systems?
Big question, I've been in this situation. I believe you also. I've been in this situation, and many of those that I either led or I'm working with. What I say and what I see in practice, that people run these days at a pace almost without stopping. So first thing for me, if you want to really sit with yourself, assess what is going on, see where you're at, you need to pause. Again, we're going to that super skill. You need to pause. Slow down, you are doing fine. So when you are able to pause, calm down that stress, that overdrive system, you are able to see things clearly. Get a friend, get a coach, get a mentor, get someone who creates safe space for you and can help you with seeing the situation as it really is. So someone who will ask you a question, or someone who will create that space and you can verbalize. Very often we are not able to say. We feel something is wrong, we are stressed, we are running fast, we are asked to run faster, and there is so much inside, but it needs to come out. So this is what I see. When I go either is just a workshop, a few-hour workshop, I create a space, and it's almost like people were waiting for this opportunity for months, if not years. I want to speak. Can I say? And it's like an avalanche. Now they have the opportunity. Not only to say, but only they can hear themselves. And this is a very powerful factor when we talk about a shift in mindset and in behavior. If I'm able to hear my story, I am brave, I am courageous, I told this story. So that's the awareness. I brought this awareness to the surface. And another formula that I use in coaching is awareness, choice, change. Every time I have an awareness, I have a choice. Choice meaning I'm gonna sit on it a little bit longer. Now is not the right time to address this issue. Maybe I need help. I need to go and speak to someone. Maybe I need professional help. At one point, you're gonna make that choice and you're gonna arrive at a different outcome because you've broken that pattern. So that's chronic stress or seeing yourself not as a priority, not prioritizing rest, not filling that cup every day, and as a consequence, not being able to pour for others. So small steps, just one awareness. Awareness is not only a piece of information, but awareness is also a feeling. So I have that feeling when I come to work every day. Where does it sit? What is the message? There is always a message, and our bodies talk to us before we are able to process it in our mind. So when you do your art therapy, you bring people to the body space, to the heart. We sit in our heads too much, so we're trying to analyze it. So what we are doing here in our discussion, majority of this discussion was about mindset shift, what information we need to give. But we are human beings, holistic level, right? Mm-hmm. When we are taught in nursing school or medical school, pharmacy school, they tell us holistic. Mm-hmm. The patient is a holistic human being. So if I have a thought, I also have an emotion sitting somewhere in the body. Something is going on in the heart space. And heart-led leadership is also one of the concepts that I teach. I've learned that heart has a magnetism of 3 feet if it's fully open and is working on its capacity. So this is how we create that positive change.
And actually neuropsychology as well, you're mentioning the body responds before. Mm-hmm. So you see how the body responds and then you think of it. The fight and fight mode. So it's always the body that's responding first. Yeah. That's why you have to listen to the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was the stubborn one for many years. Before in my career, I was the hero. There was no way I was feeling anything in my body. I was the superhero in that narrative because the culture was like that. Everyone was running really fast. And to be honest, it feels good when you are the super achiever and you can do 60 hours a week and you can look after 2 bays of patients instead of 1. And you can always identify the sick patient before they get sick. You know, it gives you adrenaline. There is also the positive element. It's not all negative. But at some point, there needs to come a shift when you start becoming your own hero. It's okay to save others. If you want to continue pouring, do it. But your cup needs to be over spilling. Mm-hmm. There needs to be abundance.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your insight. It was a very fruitful conversation with you. And I think even if you spend hours and hours, it won't end. Mm-hmm. Too bad we had only like 30 minutes discussion with you. But this is a never-ending discussion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer. It's thank you for holding space. It's a really meaningful discussion. I hope that our viewers and our listeners are gonna find that one magic tip and a magic prescription, and awareness, choice, change.
Yeah. And for me, I learned that we need to pause and think before acting and reacting to anything. So that's the message that I can take from this, very like full of discussion, but this is like the main thing that we need to focus on.
Yeah. Lovely. Happy for you to start practicing.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.